To the hundreds of you that have showed up at Patreon to talk about the real truth, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. It's become a wonderful platform in the modern world to be able to relax and ignore corporate America, ignore the government, and just speak plainly about what's on our mind. If you would like to be a part of that, it's only $1 a month, 3 pennies a day. Hundreds and hundreds of people have shown up in the last month. I'll put a link down in the first pinned comment, and you can click on that and follow it, and it's a fairly easy process. Yesterday, we talked about a very simple way that one person can go to a Bless Your Heart movement march and completely disperse it legally with no problem whatsoever, virtually guaranteed. We also talked about why sometimes being unified isn't the best idea. And in a future video, maybe tonight, perhaps tomorrow morning, we're going to talk about the 2 words that if you're ever confronted by one of these Bless Your Heart movement people, you can say these 2 words and it will shut them down. They will have absolutely no answer for it. They will not be able to argue with it. So, if you want that information, www.patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Florida Maquis, just like the channel, FLORIDA MAQUIS. Now, I have been trying to sound the alarm for quite some time about a coming financial tsunami that no one is talking about, no one is seeing. I know some of you don't like all the gloom and doom, but it's only gloom and doom if you don't take the information and then prepare. People that are ready, people that know what's coming, you'll be fine. If you're a spender, not a saver, you're going to be in trouble. But what if I told you that someone 9 months ago, almost 10 really, in September, saw something and may have predicted this issue with COVID in the sense that the government was doing things that it looked like the U.S. government was doing things that made it seem as if it was preparing for something like COVID. And it's on YouTube, and I'll give you the link. Believe it or not, 9 months ago, Kim Iverson looked into a crystal ball, and I don't think in the video she really knew what she was seeing, but she knew something wasn't right. She knew that something was coming, and it wasn't making a lot of sense. Now, many people can't even remember last September, given what's happened in this country since March. But I'd like to share that with you for those who don't know who Kim Iverson is. She's a radio personality. She has a channel here on YouTube. She's on again, off again on Twitter. And she has a very interesting take on things. Now, she's not your normal California progressive. We've gone back and forth, me being a Florida libertarian, and we don't agree on everything. But if we're ever going to move forward in this country, good people that have honest differences can still work together as long as we elect people, not parties. People, not parties. And this is just a good real-world example of it. That someone like Kim Iverson or myself, if we had the ability to sit down and actually make decisions that had teeth, we could probably get more done than the government. But here is the video, and I just want to play a snippet from it from the beginning.
The economy, but I do know something very, very strange is going on, and we need to keep our eyes open. I have a hard time fully understanding the financial markets and the banking system. I'm not going to lie. I've been reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of podcasts, listening to a lot of books on tape, doing everything that I can in order to kind of understand this behemoth that runs our lives. the central bank, the Feds, the banking system in general, I think is potentially the root of all of our problems. But again, I'm reserving my takes on that and reserving doing videos on that until I can further understand it a little bit better. But I will say this about today, because I do think it's important. I think we need to keep our eyes open. But some strange activities happen. Now, I'm sure you heard that the Feds have cut the interest rates by 0.25%. And when I turn on the news, what they're talking about is, oh, the Feds cut the rates again. This was, and the news says this to you. They say, oh, it's because Donald Trump is he's a goon, and he went out there and he pressured them, and he was, and the Feds caved, and they're actually doing what Donald Trump says because he was bullying them, and they're blaming everything on Donald Trump right now, which, look, he very well could be partially to blame. But when it comes to the economy, it's never one person. It's always a little this, a little that, a little this, a little that. And it kind of compounds into a giant mess. So the thing that is kind of, now I was pretty alarmed when they cut the interest rates the first time a couple of months ago. The Feds never do that. They never cut interest rates simply because Donald Trump bullied them. And that's what the news was 2 months ago. They cut the rates and everybody was saying, oh my gosh, they're actually caving to the president. How ridiculous is this? My thought at that time was, well, I think this shows the Feds are scared. They're seeing the election. They're seeing Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. They're seeing that they're rising. They're seeing particularly Elizabeth Warren with the narratives on the news that she's doing so well. And they're really worried that if the economy were to take a slight dip, that the people, because it's usually the economy that drives people out to vote, and usually the economy that gets people to switch parties, that if the economy takes a little dip, that people would be then voting for Elizabeth Warren, and the banks are definitely afraid of Elizabeth Warren.
Now, there was no way anyone in September could have foreseen something like COVID. But that could be another explanation of what the banks were afraid of. See, these big banks, they have better intelligence networks than governments do. And they see things. And who remembers the kid from the CDC that committed suicide, supposedly, in Atlanta? You have to wonder if maybe there was some inside baseball going on, that people knew something was coming that nobody was going to be able to comprehend or deal with. And that would make the banks do what they're doing. I will let you watch the rest of this on your own. I will also give you the link to this. Kim Iverson's channel, 18 September 2019. She also talks about what's happening at that time in the overnight lending markets. And there were other warnings. This is a video from 27 August 2019. And then on 9 December, CNN ran out some kind of malarkey explanation about what happened with this. But in a nutshell, this is what happened. You see, they have this thing called the overnight lending rate. Sometimes banks overextend themselves a little bit by end of day, and they just need to borrow a little bit of money to cover. It's just a little one-day loan. And normally the rates are like, down here, 2.5%. Well, for some reason, 17 September of last year, they spiked up to 9%. And the Feds had to intervene with this. And they had to pump billions and billions and billions of dollars. And there's no saying that this couldn't happen again. This is another chart showing the same thing, but it's a 2-year chart, showing how they kind of eked up and spiked here, but then they just went into the stratosphere. You see, this could happen again this coming September. The end of the fiscal year is October. And we're already seeing some indicators. This is China's overnight interbank rate increased on Tuesday. This is actually today, 30 June of this year. So this is something we need to keep an eye on. Because for some reason, after saying that they could supply the economy with $2.3 trillion, they've only put in $143 billion because of the issue with COVID. So you have to ask yourself a question. Why are they keeping everything so close to the vest? It would have been very easy to do another stimulus round. Wouldn't have been hard at all. It would have helped a lot of people. But I think they see something coming. Something they're not going to be able to deal with quite as easily. And it is just amazing. As YouTubers, we don't have crystal balls. Sometimes I can see things that are happening and read an article and go down a road with something, and it'll seem like as if I knew something before it happened, and it's not really the case. But in this particular case, when this happened, when she said that they're seeing something, they're acting in a very strange way, she nailed it. She absolutely nailed it. And recently on YouTube, her channel has come under a great deal of scrutiny. And for a California progressive, that's actually very strange. Anyone, of course, who would try to make any kind of case for the current leader, of course, they're going to get throttled. So I try to walk the line kind of in between. And I'll tell you what, the last thing I'll say on that topic, the current crop of parentheses R don't seem like they're a real giant fan of the current president. And I would endorse him and vote for him tomorrow if he would leave the parentheses R party. Absolutely. The same thing. I said the same thing. What made me think about this was Kim Iverson was a big proponent of Tulsi Gabbard. And she was not so much in line with all the parentheses D. And had she decided to leave and run independently, just as herself, I would have endorsed her. I'll endorse anybody who says the two-party system is the problem, and I'm going to run against that. That's going to be a giant plank in my platform. That's going to be what I run on, getting rid of the parentheses R, parentheses D. Parties. So, Kim Iverson, well done. You saw the future. So, anyway, I'll also put a link to her channel down, first pinned comment. So we'll have a link to Patreon, a link to one of Kim's videos, and a link to her channel. So like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, very much. And like I said, join us over at Patreon. I can take the gloves off. I can tell you what's really going on. And I can use pretty much whatever language I want to. Like, share, subscribe.